Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today is an extraordinary day for me and for us because we will be listening to an extraordinary presentation and speech, and that speech will be presented by His Holiness Ndate Khenpo Sodargye, who is one of the leading teachers of the renowned Larunga 5 Sciences Buddhist Academy. As a Tibetan Lama, a Buddhist scholar and teacher, a prolific translator into Chinese and a modern Buddhist thinker, Khenpo Sodargye is renowned across Asia and the West for his interest in the integration of traditional Buddhist teachings with global issues and modern life. So it is indeed very important that we actually pay attention to what the presentation will be all about. In fact, I'm sure it is motivating and very lively presentation. Now, may I call upon His Holiness Khenpo Sodargye to come and give the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day. It is wonderful to see you all here this afternoon. I am very happy to have this opportunity to communicate with all of you here today. Thank you for joining us. This is my first time visiting this country. Maybe for many of you, it's also rare to see someone in monk's robes like me. Perhaps this is also your first time. After I finish giving my talk today, I will be available to answer any questions that you might have. There will be a short period for mutual questions and answers. Afterwards, ACC will also have some wonderful programs for everyone. So every moment we have is precious and everyone should value it. I would like to especially thank the principal of ACC and Venerable Hui Li here, and also all the leaders and teachers from our school. Today, I would like to talk to you about something important that I want to share with you all. It's simply a life with love. Because people from everywhere, no matter who they are, regardless of their background or where they come from, all of us need some kind of very special love. This love plays a very important and significant role in the human world, deeply affecting our lives by shaping our feelings, guiding our actions. From our earliest childhood until the very moment we finally leave this world, no one can live without love. On the surface, the word love seems so simple, just a single word. But in reality, from the moment we come into this world as children, from the earliest moments of our youth, as we grow and change through the many stages of middle age, and even as we eventually enter the later years of old, we can never be without it during any of these stages. When we are young, we often need the love of our parents. As we grow up, we need the love of friends and family. And when we, as time goes by, eventually become old, we also need the love of our children and grandchildren. We also need to have love for our family and for our own lives, as well as love for our country, for our planet, and even for all of humanity in the world. All need to be protected by a kind of love. But this kind of genuine, caring love should truly start with our own selves first. We must first become strong ourselves, only on the basis of self-awareness, by recognizing and understanding our own thoughts, and can it really be realized? Because if we start off talking about grand ideals, without starting with ourselves, without beginning from the small things, then perhaps in our whole lives we won't in fact accomplish much at all. I remember that your respected former president of South Africa, Mandela, once famously wrote this in one of his published books. He mentioned that he visited a royal chapel in England where the tombs of Newton and many others are. He once actually visited this place. At that time, he saw a tombstone that influenced him for his entire life. But this gravestone, curiously enough, had no date inscribed on it at all, nor did it belong to anyone particularly famous. He was very ordinary. On the gravestone, inscribed with a particularly memorable sentence from the deceased himself, it was a short passage. He said, "When I was young, I had a strong desire and ambition to change the world. But when I became a little more mature, as I grew older, I realized that such a dream was impossible to achieve. So later my ambition shrank. I wanted to change my country. As I slowly and gradually grew older and approached closer to the very end of my life, I could not change my country. So I then really wanted to change my family. But in the end, lying on my own bed, I found I could not even change my family. At that moment, I realized if from the very beginning I had tried to change myself, perhaps I could have somehow changed my family. If I could change my family with the help and encouragement of them, perhaps I could have changed my country and perhaps even the world for the better. But by that point, it was all too late. Therefore, every young person, without exception, especially all of you young people sitting here, should be considered the future of the country and the future of your families, and also the future of our world. Each one of you should have broad and far-reaching ideals. Think about your beloved country, your fellow people, your proud nation, and so on. You must have a very brave and unwavering confidence. This is truly something that every young person absolutely must have in their life. But to truly realize such dreams, you must first enrich and improve yourself. And you need to excel in learning international scientific and technological knowledge. At the same time, you must also carefully protect your own unique culture, as well as all the inherent human civilizations we possess. In this process, we may encounter some difficulties, but we cannot give up. We must persist all the way through. Perhaps at some point we will be troubled or affected by illness, or perhaps we will be entangled by poverty. But as the ancients often said, a gentleman worries about virtue, not poverty. In other words, a wise person, he will care deeply about his moral character and noble knowledge. But he will not be concerned with worldly things like wealth or poverty. These are things he knows how to transcend, things he knows how to face. In the past, people often told me that places like Lesotho in Africa and South Africa had poor economic conditions. But now that I am here, to be completely honest, I feel that compared to when I was young, looking at the overall situation of studying about 20 or 30 years ago, you are actually much more well off than we were. I once attended a teacher training school to become a teacher, and in our class, which consisted of approximately 30 people, there were 3 or 4 classmates whose clothes were covered in patches, and I was one of them too. Often, in front of classmates and teachers, such as when giving a presentation or answering a question, I felt embarrassed and didn't want to talk about my family's situation. So I often did things like trading old clothes and some of our local products, for instance butter and cheese curds. I would often trade these things with my classmates, or do some business with other villagers. Looking back at my own school days, I saw that many of you dressed very nicely. Sometimes when I was selling things on the street on Sundays, I felt especially embarrassed when many of my classmates saw me. I would desperately try to hide. Looking back now, really, my student days were a very innocent, pure and happy time. When I recall those days, it was a time full of many stories. But for me, that time has already passed. For many of you, every one of us needs to move forward bravely, with strength and determination. This is, without a doubt, absolutely everyone's choice. You should all be quite familiar with Michael Jordan, right? Nicknamed Air Jordan, and was a top basketball player. I read his biography. Actually, it wasn't easy for him to become famous and achieve what he did, because his family was extremely poor, truly struggling to make ends meet. When he was 13, his father once gave him a piece of clothing and asked Jordan to find a way to sell it and to see if he could possibly make $2. Jordan figured out a way. He first washed the shirt and then ironed it. After that, he stood at a subway station for 6 hours. In the end, he eventually sold it and managed to make $2. When he brought the money back, his father praised him, calling him capable. After some time, his father gave him another shirt once again. He looked at the shirt and asked, "Is it possible for you to sell this particular shirt to me for the price of $20? It was quite difficult for Jordan, but he still found a way. His cousin was good at drawing. He had his cousin paint Mickey Mouse and other fairy tale characters on the shirt. Then he took it to sell outside a private school. Finally, a noble bought it. He brought the $20 back. After some time, his father gave him yet another old shirt. He inquired if Jordan could possibly find some way to sell it for a total of $200. At this point, he really faced some difficulties. But then he found an opportunity. A celebrity came to New York to promote her documentary. At that time, he brought the old shirt and asked the celebrity to sign it. Celebrities don't give autographs, but when she saw that he was a poor child, she signed her name on his shirt, and later he auctioned it off. He hoped to get $200, but it ended up selling for $1,200. Finally, when he carefully brought the hard-earned money home to his family, his father was overjoyed. He was ecstatic. Then the father very gently told his child, he said, "No matter what it is, as long as we work hard, there's truly nothing we can't possibly accomplish." In the end, he said, "It's just that our family is a bit poor, that's all. In fact, as long as we don't give up, there's always hope for absolutely anything and everything that we do." No one could have imagined 20 years later there wouldn't be a single corner of the world where people didn't know Michael Jordan. His entire journey was hard-won as well.
So I honestly think, especially during our time as students, when we are learning and growing, when someone is dealing with difficulties across different aspects, we might think about giving up or making a change, but neither is really a good choice. We must always do our very best to find possible ways to overcome and deal with all the obstacles and challenges.
Actually, if we want to make big changes in our lives,
we definitely need education. Through education, we can change our own destinies. Our family circumstances and even the whole world rely on education to change. So, what is so-called education? During our student years, we must endure all kinds of hardships and difficulties and not be afraid of any challenge. We should keep learning, consistently striving for higher, deeper, and more knowledge. This way, in the future, we will be able to make use of it at any time, no matter what the situation is. Actually, I used to really enjoy reading biographies of Africans because among you, many people had become world leaders in various fields. They truly love peace and equality, including some great figures who have brought tremendous change to the entire world. They come from your communities. Although looking at human history, there has been racial discrimination against us or inequality between people. There have indeed been such episodes or occurrences in the past at different times, but everyone now agrees that this is a mistaken notion. Ever since Martin Luther King, who won the prestigious and renowned Nobel Peace Prize in the year 1964, and delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech, beginning with this important declaration as foundation, some initial and similar movements started in the United States. And in various parts of the world at the time, many ethnic minorities, as well as many disadvantaged groups, were liberated. And as I mentioned earlier, President Mandela, who also loved peace, won the world-renowned Nobel Prize in 1993, one of the highest honors. Before that, and for the sake of freedom, for the principles of fairness and justice of all humanity, he endured, in fact, 27 years of imprisonment, but he never gave up. He kept striving. In the end, he focused mainly on Africa, but he also made tremendous contributions to all of humanity. I've read some of his books. They are truly moving. Of course, there are many, many more examples. Among black people, there are quite a few who have become the best in the world. For example, the rock star Michael Jackson, who was known for his incredible musical talent, the boxing champion Muhammad Ali, and the soccer king Pele, and also Toni Morrison, the acclaimed author who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1993. She wrote the acclaimed novel The Bluest Eye the Black Book, etc. In fact, all of these are actually from your race. It should be said that people around the world with different preferences have gained happiness and joy. Among these, there are some things I'm not interested in. For example, soccer, I've never played it myself. Even when others are playing, I don't really understand it. As for boxing, I did do some boxing back when I was still just a student, but the way I did it was a bit different. I also hit others. When I hit someone in the face, their nose started bleeding. Then when someone punched me in the nose, my nose would bleed too. Among about 5 or 6 kids in total, I won the boxing champion title quite frequently. But later, when you actually see the kung fu skills of these ACC kids, as I just mentioned earlier on, at that school, if a few ACC kids came to fight me, I probably wouldn't be able to beat them. In a moment, you'll see them holding sticks, holding swords, holding all sorts of things. So it looks quite a bit intimidating. I don't know if you could win in a fight against these kids, no matter what happens in our lives or what we go through. It is important that we always hold on to a kind of love. In fact, this kind of deep and meaningful love is something that scientists themselves also strongly advocate and support. For example, Einstein's daughter, 20 years after his death,
revealed his notes. And in those notes there was a sentence that said, "Science's exploration to the end of the universe is the sentiment of love." This was, in fact, something that Einstein himself never made public during his lifetime. But 20 years after he passed away, this statement was discovered. Everyone interprets it differently. Actually, the purpose of science is actually the love we need to care about. This kind of science includes spiritual science, as well as others in the world in various fields, such as biological science, quantum physics, and many other related disciplines, and so on. There are many different sciences. Among them, I think the spiritual sciences, including some religions, are, in my opinion, extremely important. Some of the teachers and students here may have faith and some may not. That's okay. It's fine whether you have faith or not. But what we need to understand is there is a form of Buddhism that, in fact, nowadays, I have visited many different schools and institutes around the world, and among them many people rely on different religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, use their methods of contemplation and practice, as well as different approaches, to adjust their own minds, and in the end they attain unimaginable happiness that material things cannot satisfy. They all achieve this. Some people may, for example, be unfamiliar with what is called Buddhism. But in fact, what I want to say to everyone here today is, I have studied and practiced Buddhism for many years. But the teachings of Buddhism do not contradict science, nor do they conflict with any noble religion in the world. Because what is the teaching it offers everyone? It is to let all sentient beings, including animals, of course, temporarily and ultimately attain a kind of happiness. This is its doctrine. So I think as people living in the modern world today, in our current era, you may need to study these religions with an open and relaxed mind. When necessary, you can adjust your own mind through meditation, then your work, and study efficiency improves. If we feel that we are not particularly interested in any religion or religious tradition, then in our daily lives, we should maintain a happy and joyful mindset to essentially sustain your important daily life and your ongoing studies. This is also very important as well. No matter what in our lives, it is very necessary to help others, and at the same time, it is also very important to keep our own minds in a state of happiness. I hope you won't let some trivial matter make you frequently feel angry, unhappy, or even experience pain, causing distress in our lives. That is really quite unreasonable. Actually, no matter what happens, we should approach everything with a joyful attitude. If we do this, then the world should be a very beautiful place.